Hello and welcome to the Staten Island Morning Show. I'm Nikki Stanzione.
And I'm Don Smith. We're so happy you could join us here today.
We are indeed. It is always a pleasure to see you.
Yes, you too.
And I love that we're all in the holiday spirit
Very
for
festive,
the new
right?
year coming our way. It's going to be a good one. And before we get any further in the show, let's first bring in our friend and meteorologist, Mike Favetta. Hi, Mike.
Morning,
Hey
Mike.
there, very good day to you both. You know, we've got plenty of cold weather on tap. I mean, it's something we've been watching here across Staten Island and really dealing with for the last several weeks. And now as we head toward the end of the year, after so much cold weather, you wonder, where's the snow? Because with a little bit of the snow that fell earlier in the month of December, we always wonder, well, what about the probabilities of a white Christmas? It's something we touched on the show last week, but the probability is actually getting just a little bit better for temperature, even though there's really not going to be a whole lot of that, snow around because of the rain and then the wind that comes in for the end of the year. So it takes a little bit of a turn in terms of what's happening weather-wise across Staten Island. It will, however, be colder, and with temperatures that feel like the 30s, even colder at night, that's your forecast average high, feels like temperature. Very chilly, and we're staying below average through New Year's Day. Not expected to climb above until we get, well, probably until the second week of January. It's going to be a chilly trend, and that cold weather continues going into the middle of next month. Now, every time we have a La Niña winter, which is what's expected for this winter, there could be some milder trends ahead. We'll give you those details and tell you our chances of seeing some milder weather and how the winter has warmed in the past few decades. Nikki and Don, that's coming up in a few minutes.
Thanks so much, Mike.
Yeah.
You know, it's so funny. We all act every year. I feel like we all act surprised when it starts to get really cold. It's so cold. I said it today. It's so cold. And then I thought, what's wrong? Oh, well, of course it is.
Exactly,
it's
right. But it's Staten Island. I mean, come on. I mean, it's
Exactly.
supposed to be this cold in December. You know, it's kind of out of the ordinary. When a couple of Christmases ago, I think it was like 60 or something like that. It was
I
like
remember,
really warm.
yeah.
It was like really weird. It was like felt like you're in Florida or something.
Yeah,
It
I
just
was
threw everybody
visiting,
off.
and I remember, and I saw this beautiful sunset. And I remember I went out to get something, and I said to my parents, I don't know if I've ever gone outside without a coat like this.
Yeah, exactly.
On the
Right.
holidays like this. Listen, we take it for granted when we have the nice weather, and then we take it for granted when we have the cold, because then we don't get to bundle up and wear all those fun winter clothes
This
in the
is true.
summer. So let's enjoy it while we have it.
You know,
right?
I'm okay with the cold. I just don't like the snow anymore. Maybe I'm just
I
getting
like
too
the
old
snow
for
to
it.
look at. I don't like it to drive in.
I like
or
to drive it or
commute in.
shovel it or do any of that stuff. The less snow, the better. But the cold weather, I can handle.
Yeah,
That's
we
okay.
can handle it.
Exactly. And Nikki, and speaking of driving,
Yeah.
if you regularly cross into New Jersey, you get ready to pay a little more next year. The Port Authority has approved the 2023 budget, which includes a toll increase for all 6 New York, New Jersey crossings, including the Outer Bridge Crossing, the Goethals, and the Bayonne Bridge. Starting January 8th, drivers will see a $1 toll increase, so Easy Pass drivers could pay up to $14.75 a trip, and cash by mail drivers will pay $17. Staten Island Bridges Plan drivers will now pay $7.38. Again, this only affects you coming from New Jersey into Staten Island. You do not pay the toll going over to New Jersey from Staten Island. So
Well,
again, coming back to the island can be a little bit more.
At least there's some silver lining to the situation. Right?
Yes, there is. And you got to, make sure you sign up for that Staten Island commuter plan. Even if you are, let's say, a resident of New Jersey and you use Staten Island to get through Brooklyn, you can still sign up for that plan.
Right.
But again, Staten Islanders, make sure you sign up for that, which I'm sure most have already.
Right.
Because then you can also get the discount at the Verrazano as well for being a Staten Island resident. You have to show ID that you have an actual address on Staten Island.
So as long as you're prepared, and that's what we're here for, right, is to inform you. The bad news is if you do work in Staten Island, and because a lot of our viewers I know watch coming in from New Jersey every day. So just, it's like, it's a difficult scenario, obviously, with everything getting more expensive. But when you know in advance, you can be prepared for it as best as you can.
Exactly. It's going up just like everything else is, right?
Right. Well, the ferry's not.
It's not.
That's
the
good
good
news.
thing.
That's the good news. The New York City ferry system has put a potential expansion from Staten Island to Brooklyn on hold for the foreseeable future. The expansion has been shelved because the system needs to become financially sustainable first. That drive for financial stability was the motivator behind a recent fare increase in September. The ferry expansion will reportedly be reconsidered at a future date.
Okay, so that's a little bit of welcome news there. But
Right.
I mean,
We'll
if they
take it.
expand that ferry, that's what you want to do, but
Exactly.
at this time of the year, standing outside the ferry, it's got to be a kind of an interesting deal. It's got to be pretty
Absolutely.
cold across the verrazano
Yeah,
Bay there.
speaking
New York
of
Bay.
cold, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that would be, you definitely have to bundle up just a little bit for that
Oh yeah,
ride.
yeah. You're inside, or even just kind of standing outside on the ferry there at St. George.
It is, but it's always a good view, I'll tell you that.
Absolutely, that's right. The S79 bus cameras will start issuing tickets for bus lane violations and other violations as well. MTA officials say they have the capability to go after things like double parking and illegal U-turns.
While the S79 buses are the only ones currently with cameras, the MTA says they want to expand them to other Staten Island routes in the future. The cameras were installed on buses in late October and have been issuing warnings. Those warnings become tickets in 2023.
So be aware, they always say Big Brother is watching. So they are absolutely watching, and that they're going to expand that through as many of those bus lines as you possibly can get them on. You probably eventually making your way into Manhattan and over to Brooklyn and into the Bronx and Queens, eventually all 5 boroughs. But, a lot of times they'll do just a test run of it to see how many violations, I guess, they're kind of racking up. Again, they're just warnings for now. Come New Year's Day, that's it. You're going to get the tickets.
Heed the warnings, right? Yeah. And the thing is also with that is just remember what you said is so true. You can't really get away with anything these days. There's always somebody watching. You go on, I went on the internet to find something, and it said, do you want to go back to some location that I drove to a week ago that had nothing to do with what I was even searching for? And I wasn't searching for it on that same device.
Right.
And I thought, everybody knows everything.
That's
so
it.
Just
Everyone's listening. Everyone's listening. The cameras are all over the place, your phones and whatnot. And again, as technology continues to advance, these kind of things, I think, are going to be more prevalent.
Exactly.
And even probably tolls. We'll see.
So, when they say do as you would if someone was watching when no one's watching, someone's always watching is the bottom line of the story.
We make a t-shirt of that or something, right?
We should copyright that.
Oh, I like that. Yes.
Just footnote me in the bibliography.
Yeah, all right. So if you're commuting on the subway, you'll notice new customer service centers opening up at several stations across the 5 boroughs, including the St. George Staten Island Railroad Station. The MTA will open these centers at 6 subway stations early next year. The kiosk will offer full-service customer assistance with service only as Omni and reduced fare support. The St. George's station will be one of the first 6 to open a customer service center. 9 more will open later in 2023. As we get more of this, faceless kind of nameless kind of environment, either with Amazon and you just click on your phone and you do this and whatever. And then every time you try to call for customer service, you can never get anybody on the phone.
Automated.
And all automated. Yeah. It's nice to see that customer service centers are actually opening where you can actually go and actually speak to somebody, because it just makes things, I think, a little easier for a lot of people. You just have a question that the phone can't answer or an app can't answer.
And in addition to that, I think it also helps with those who are looking for work.
Yeah.
Because everything is so automated, everything is technological, and all of these people are not robots, and these people therefore lose opportunities to be actually employed. So I think it also expands the opportunity for employment.
Yes,
in addition to giving us, as the customer, the service that we've been missing.
Sure, exactly.
Now, the New York City Lantern Festival is in Staten Island this holiday season. They've got a drive-through display open at St. George's Staten Island University Hospital Community Park. We heard all about it from their spokesperson, Christine Nicholas.
Here now to talk about it is festival spokesperson Christina Nicholas. Thank you so much for joining us, Christine.
Hi, Christine.
Hey, thanks so much, Nikki, and an early happy birthday to you, Nikki. And I thought a great place for you to spend your birthday if you're still not sure where to go.
Listen, I'm all up for it. It's my first birthday back in town, so I'm ready for anything that Staten Island and New York has to offer for us. And so, that being said, what can people expect at the Lantern Festival this year?
Well, this is a little bit different this year. As you probably know, they've been on Staten Island for a few years, but they moved it this year to the Staten Island University Hospital Community Park, where the baseball team plays, the Staten Island Ferry Hawks. So it's still outdoors, but a little bit protected from those elements that Don spoke about, or your weatherman.
Right. Yeah.
Sorry about that. So it's a little bit protected. And it's also a great treat to announce with you guys is that now kids 12 and under, thanks to support from the Staten Island Advance, will be able to go for free.
Great.
So if you go online at Winter Festival, it's the NYC Winter Lantern Festival, but they have a beautiful website because they actually have 4 winter lantern festivals this year. In addition to Staten Island, they're at the Queens Farm Museum. They're in Nassau County and they're in Suffolk County. So they've certainly expanded. But for Staten Island kids, if you go on, thanks to the Staten Island Advance, when you buy your tickets, just put SIA for Staten Island Advance, SIA Kids. And with Showtix, it'll honor that. And as long as you have a paying adult, you can bring as many kids as you'd like, because what they want to do is really show the kids what this wonderful Lantern Festival is all about. It's called Journey to the East. And it is part of the Chinese culture to bring light and joy, especially with the new year coming. So it's really a fantastic opportunity to celebrate the holidays.
Aw,
Wonderful. We love it.
that sounds incredible.
Great stuff. So now, any kind of a festival always takes an army of individuals to put this together. So what was the process of putting this year's Lantern Festival together?
Oh my goodness. Well, it is just so amazing when you see it. There are 10,000 or so lanterns, and from small to large. I think 30 feet tall is the largest one that they have. There's some photos, but they're all hand painted.
Oh,
So, each one is designed individually. So when you look at them, you look at the detail. These are really pieces of art. They're really, really wonderful. And, I know Jessica was on saying she's got 2 young kids. I have 3 teenagers. Okay. So this is great for little kids, but it's also cool for teenagers. And it's hard to find that mix that they can do
That's
both.
right.
So the teenagers think that it's cool for Instagram purposes and
I
TikTok,
was just thinking that.
all the wonderful things that they do with their phones nowadays.
Uh-huh.
But also there's a little playground for the kids. So for the little kids, the little kids the lanterns are so big. If you are only like 3 or 4 or 5 years old, I mean, it's like bigger than life. They feel like they're,
Aw.
it's really exciting to see their faces. So again, thanks to the Staten Island Advance, all kids 12 and under will be able to enjoy the New York City Winter Lantern Festival, Journey to the East in Staten Island only.
I love this. You know what? I was thinking as I'm looking at the pictures, of course, first thing that came to mind was photo ops. And for everybody, for family photo pictures, for, of course, like you said, the teenagers that are doing, their Instagram
Sure.
pictures, the photo ops are extraordinary, right? But also, you're having it at a very special place. So I know we both really want to know, how much does hosting it at the baseball stadium actually help with organizing the festival?
Well, they're very involved. Eric Schliffer was really supportive of this. The Fairy Hawks, when they made the announcement that it was coming, they had the mascot there. Eric was there, the folks from the baseball team. John Castanatides is a big supporter of that. He owns the baseball team, so he was there to support this. So, this is really a community effort. And by moving it over to Empire Outlets, it also allows for additional parking, but then also people can come from Manhattan and the city over by ferry, so you don't have the parking issue. That's probably the easiest way to do it. And then also it's the holidays. So what better place to go shop than Empire Outlets? And then, you can have a fantastic dinner at some of the great restaurants, Clinton Hall, the Wasabi Japanese Steakhouse that opened up. Really, that is beginning to take great life and shape as well. So you can, and it's right there, right down, the way. So it's something for everybody. It's the little kids, it's the teenagers, but then also the parents can enjoy not only the Winter Lantern Festival, but they can enjoy Empire Outlets and get some last minute holiday shopping done.
Yes.
Hint, hint.
Absolutely. And it's so close. You get off the ferry and it's right there.
Yep,
It's great.
exactly, absolutely. Christine, very elaborate. The artwork is just amazing, and some of the photos we were just looking at, really just incredible stuff. How does this year's display compare to ones in previous years?
Well, they have more lanterns, and they have a little bit of this story called Journey to the East, which in China, it's a very popular story, well-known folklore about Journey to the West, but now it's Journey to the East, coming east. And we're on the East Coast, so they tried to, fit it into the New York market. So it talks about how animals and nature, play such a big role in the culture, which is also something very important for kids to really appreciate and know and live by, right? So we have to live in our environment. So this is an opportunity, I think, for the kids, to maybe learn something, but also just to have fun too. I mean, at the end of the day, they just get mesmerized by the lights and wonderful photo op. So Nikki, for your birthday, what a great place to start.
Sounds great. You're getting me excited. I'm like, I need to talk to my family about this. It's such a great idea. Yeah. And I love the fact that what you said is so true. Sometimes we get so mesmerized and we're awestruck by the beauty. We forget we're actually learning something in the process, which is a great way to kind of, I don't want to say trick the kids into getting an education, but sort of trick the kids into getting an education. So people around town, I know we're hearing what people are saying. I want to ask you, what has the reception you've been hearing for the festival been so far?
Oh, it's been fantastic. I mean, even if you read this weekend in the Staten Island Advance, they had Brian Leyline did a column about it. And, it was, I think the artistic value to it, the colors, everybody seems to love it. So it's been very popular. It's open on the weekends for now, Friday through Sunday, 5:30 to 9:30. But then starting for Christmas week on December 23rd, it'll be open all 5 days of that week, except for Christmas. But then, you can enjoy a weekday, because that's another thing as a parent. That Christmas week, it's great, and then once Christmas comes, it's okay, what do you do with the kids?
Right.
Beforehand, they're really good. They want to be on that nice list, so they'll do everything you ask them to. They'll take the dishes out. They'll walk the dog all of a sudden. It's like that dog they begged us to get, saying they'll walk it every day. Yeah. By the way, before Christmas, they walk the dog. Starting with
trying to get on that good list, right, Christine?
Very true.
Absolutely. Yeah. So where can people find out more information on this great event?
Sure. They can just go to winterlanternfestival.com and then it'll direct you to show ticks. And then remember, for the kids 12 and under, it's SIA Kids for them to put that code in. Or you can go straight up to the box office, which is on the water side of the stadium. So when you're going from the ferry and then you pass Empire Outlets, go through Empire Outlets, you're actually entering in center field, if you will.
Oh, easy.
Cool.
That makes it easy and convenient. Thank you. Christine, maybe I'll see you this weekend. We thank you so much again for taking time with us this morning.
Congratulations on the show. It's really terrific.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot. Thank you so much.
Coming up, more on the graffiti cleanup on the South Shore.
Plus, how some additional federal funding could help you save money on your heating bill this winter.
And you can always find us on social media. Search for the Staten Island Morning Show on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter and click follow.
As an Olympic athlete, I prepare for everything. So when I became pregnant, I thought I was ready. But at 32 weeks, I was diagnosed with severe preeclampsia and had an emergency C-section. Looking back, had I known the warning signs, I would have talked to my doctor sooner. Too many women die of pregnancy-related complications, and most are preventable. If you or someone you know is pregnant or recently had a baby, learn the warning signs. It could help save her life. Hear her.
Travel is part of the American way of life.
When we're on vacation, we keep an eye out for anything that looks out of place.
Miss your bag.
When we travel from city to city, we pay attention to our surroundings.
Everyone plays a role in keeping our communities safe.
Whether you're traveling for business or pleasure, be aware of your surroundings. If you see something suspicious, say something to local authorities.
Well, let's go back to meteorologist Mike Favetta for another look at the weather. Hi, Mike.
Hey guys, hope you're having a great day. Now that we're entering the last few days of December, headed right into winter, you may have wondered, winter overall has felt a little milder than winters past, especially when you go way back in the history books. So if you look at the data, going back to 1970, Staten Island has actually warmed about 3.5 degrees. Now, this is taking all of the winters combined and averaging them together. They're in this nice long line. Obviously, there have been some winters that were much colder. You can see those here toward the bottom. For instance, back in the middle of, say, the 1990s and the 2000s. And then you have some winters that were obviously a little bit warmer, like up here. But it's that long-term trend that climatologists especially are concerned about, because that tends to lower our snowfall totals. And here in Staten Island, because we get our drinking water from the reservoirs in the Catskills, a lot of that winter snow upstate will tend to, hold our reservoir and keep our drinking water plentiful going into the drier months. So without that kind of reserve, there tends to be a little bit of trouble down the road, if you will. Looking at what our winter is expected to do this season, it all goes back to La Niña. Now, you know about La Niña, and you have a little bit of lighter, for instance, colors here on the map. La Niña pattern is when we have colder water in the Pacific, and that translates to a little bit of milder, wetter weather that comes into the area here in Staten Island. But we've had snow, big snows, in fact. We're coming up on the 12th anniversary of the Boxing Day blizzard. We'll tell you more about that coming up with another check of your weather forecast in just a few minutes.
Thank you, Mike. I love the history lesson.
Yes, that's
I
right.
love it.
Professor Mike.
Professor
Great stuff.
Mike, I like it.
Thank you, Mike. Speaking of winter, Nikki, Staten Island families that are struggling to pay their heating bills are getting some help. New York's Home Energy Assistance Program has received an extra $63 million in federal funding.
The money was awarded to the state last week to help balance out the rise in utility rates due to inflation. The specific benefit payments vary depending on factors like household income, size, and whether there is an occupant that is particularly vulnerable to the cold. Staten Island families can apply for benefits by going to their local Department of Social Services.
Yeah, if you do have an issue, definitely report it, because that's the
Yes.
only way that they are going to know that there is some sort of a problem. Just
Right.
don't go into the mindset that, hey, just because my heat is out or it's not hot enough or
Mhm.
warm enough that everybody knows about it. They may not. You
Right.
know.
And when you find out about these things, sometimes you wait and then you go back and then they say, well, you didn't tell us at the time. We didn't
Right.
know. So we don't have any record.
Mhm.
So that's why, to Don's point, make sure that you are on top of it now so that it can help you in the future.
Sure. Yeah. And again, if you're in a building that, has some elderly residents,
Oh, yeah.
maybe check in on them as well, just to make sure that their heat and things are up to
Always.
par where it should be.
Good advice. The NYPD's 123rd precinct helped to clean up some graffiti on Staten Island's South Shore. The work was done by the precinct's neighborhood coordination officers, who helped paint over graffiti all across the neighborhood. A graffiti cleanup initiative was started by the NYPD in the spring of 2021. The program began after the department received over 6,000 graffiti complaints.
Wow.
Listen, I'm all for artwork, but
Yeah.
when it's disruptive to the beauty of the
Sure.
community, that's another story.
Right. Exactly. And I mean, if some places maybe have, certain areas where they can go ahead and do that kind of artwork. Because again, it is artwork. It's amazing what some of these
yeah.
graffiti artists can do.
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
it's just, you can't even believe the stuff that they're able to do.
It's impressive. It's
Oh.
often impressive, but it's not impressive when, like I said, when it feels disruptive and
Sure.
so
or
I'm
on the side
glad.
of a subway car or something like that.
And I like to see the follow-up on an initiative like
Yes.
that. It's nice to see.
Excellent.
Mayor Adams' office renewed its warning on illegal cannabis shops across the 5 boroughs. In a tweet, the mayor's office said a city task force has seized roughly 100,000 products valued at over $4 million. The task force issued 500 civil violations and 66 criminal summonses in recent weeks. The move comes after Mayor Adams held a press conference last Thursday announcing new moves to address the problem.
Yeah, it's well,
Well,
this whole cannabis, marijuana
it's
debate,
a slippery
how we're-
slope, right?
Yeah, it's slow in coming, and I think a lot of folks are, looking to have it progress faster than it is.
Correct.
So, there's other states that are around New York State that are implementing the same types of programs, but it's, again, a slow go. It's really just a tough go as far as, cannabis, and it's a whole debate that we
is.
could go for hours on.
I never thought I'd see the day. I remember I actually wrote a paper, if I'm not mistaken, in college about the effects of TCH and I remember writing, why I don't understand why I was kind of a goody.
Sure.
And so I thought it was interesting though to present the facts, but when you really hear all the facts, it really puts you sometimes in the center of the debate. It's hard to sometimes choose a side.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
will.
And again, still the federal government classifies it as an illegal drug.
Exactly.
That's part of the problem. And I also think that some of the problems also are as far as the money that comes in, again, since the federal government is still classifying this as illegal, what do the states do with the money?
Right.
Because certain banks may not want to take the money. It's a whole thing that you go both back and forth on both sides. And, it just may take a little more time here for New York City and Staten Island, to be specific, to have these shops come online.
Exactly. Well, we'll see what happens in the coming weeks.
Yeah. So a couple of weeks ago, we spoke with Mary Rafferty of Community Resources Staten Island to talk about how the work that they are helping to help people with intellectual disabilities live independently. Let's take a look. And joining us now is our CEO and Executive Director, Mary Rafferty. Thanks for coming on this morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you
Hi,
for
Mary.
having me. Nice
Our
to see you.
pleasure. Well, it's good to have you with us. And we want to talk all about the organization. And we want to start with asking you how the organization helps people with intellectual disabilities to live independently.
Sure. Well, I'm so happy to say Community Resources in 2023 will be celebrating our 70th year here on Staten Island. And we support people in group homes in the community. So we have 15 group homes on Staten Island, 5 supportive apartments. We have a preschool over on Richmond Road that supports 80 children. And we have a day program that supports 200 people in day services and employment programs. So we've made some real headway this year in having our folks work in the community. And that's really our goal, to have people move on from day program into working, just like you and I, in the Staten Island community.
Yeah, and to live independently too. I guess that's one of the main goals as well. What are some of the services that you provide?
So we have residential supports, we have day supports, we have employment supports, we have the employment programs, which basically start with people having some support and then the staff kind of fading out, so that eventually people are able to have that little extra support during their initial phase of work and then to work independently. And we're here for the families too. We provide a lot of direction and support for families in terms of benefits.
It's important, right? Because it's not just, for each person who's struggling, there's a family around them that really contributes, to being a big part of their life. And it's probably also very grateful for the independence that they have, but I'm sure it's not always easy. What are some of the biggest challenges that you face when trying to help?
Well, I think for all non-for-profits, the pandemic really was a very challenging time. So, the number one priority was keeping people healthy and safe. And, we're starting to come out of it now, but we work under the auspices of OPWDD, the Office of People with Developmental Disabilities. So during the pandemic, day programs were very, very limited in what they were able to do. So I'm happy to say we have about 135 people back to day program full time, which has been a real help to families. So for all the challenges that the pandemic, made for families in their homes, group homes had real challenges because you have staff that are coming in and out of the homes. So I think Community Resources and many of our sister agencies on Staten Island really rose to the occasion of keeping people safe.
Yeah, that was certainly most important for everyone. So how have you been able to add to the resources that you provide?
So, for all non-for-profits, we rely on fundraising and donors. So we're always trying to think of new and innovative ways to raise funds. Last year, we had our first golf outing that was actually at one of the virtual golf facilities, which was very successful. And it was also 100 degrees on Staten Island that day. So our golfers were really happy for the air conditioning. And this year for our 70th year anniversary, we're going to try to do a few really different fundraisers. We're going to hopefully in March have a Taste of Staten Island. and really embrace the Staten Island community and do things to raise some funds that provide for the extras, that we're not funded for.
Well, for those who have not had a taste of Staten Island yet, you'll definitely want to show up for that one, because I promise the food
I'm sure it'll
can't
be
be
very
beat.
good. Exactly.
Second to none.
Right, absolutely. So, Mary, how can people find out more so that they can help as well?
So I'm happy to say our website is up and running, and we're all over social media. So we would love it if people followed us on social media, because we'll advertise our fundraising events there. And it's just really a great way to see what's going on over here. We do pretty frequent posts with pictures of things that are actually happening here. We have a wonderful urban garden. And our folks this year, we just actually got a shout out at Our Lady of Pity. We donate from our urban garden to their food kitchen once a week.
Nice.
And that's been going on now for a while. So all of those posts are up there, and all of our community relationships are up there.
That's nice.
Well, Mary, continued success and all the great work that you're doing. And thanks again so much for coming on here this morning.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for having me, and stop by and visit us one of these days.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you too.
Coming up, more on a recent meeting with city officials on redevelopment plans alongside Richmond Terrace on the North Shore.
Plus, what a new report is saying about how home sales on Staten Island have changed over the last year. And of course,
you can always find us on social media, lovely social media. Search for the Staten Island Morning Show on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, and click follow.
As an Olympic athlete, I prepare for everything. So when I became pregnant, I thought I was ready. But at 32 weeks, I was diagnosed with severe preeclampsia and had an emergency C-section. Looking back, had I known the warning signs, I would have talked to my doctor sooner. Too many women die of pregnancy-related complications, and most are preventable. If you or someone you know is pregnant or recently had a baby, learn the warning signs. It could help save her life. Hear her.
Travel is part of the American way of life.
When we're on vacation, we keep an eye out for anything that looks out of place.
Miss your bag. When we travel from city to city, we pay attention to our surroundings.
Everyone plays a role in keeping our community safe.
Whether you're traveling for business or pleasure, be aware of your surroundings. If you see something suspicious, say something to local authorities.
Thanks for joining us back here on the Staten Island Morning Show, our best of holiday morning show.
Yes.
I'm Don Smith.
I'm Nikki Stanzione.
Let's get another check of the weather with meteorologist Mike Favetta in the Weather Center. Good morning, Mike. Happy holidays.
Hi,
Happy
Mike.
holidays. Yeah, as we wrap up the month and kind of get into the thick of winter here, wanted to remind you that we can see some pretty big storms during this time of year. One, in fact, hit Staten Island really hard 12 years ago this week. So it was back during the time after Christmas, the 26th into the 27th in the year 2010. And these, what you see here, these numbers were the snowfall totals for Staten Island in inches right across the Arthur Kill. 32 inches of snow fell during that time frame, 29 inches over in Eltingville, and there's your 26 inches up toward Bull's Head. So a huge storm that was a result of this little known phenomenon that you only hear about once a year because it's a very technical term, but meteorologists like to use it and the media loves to use it because anytime you hear the word a bomb cyclone, we think, wow, that must be big. And it is, because we get them here in the Northeast, and here in Staten Island, we are used to having storms that do this in the wintertime, tends to give us the big snows, and it just means that the storm strengthens rapidly in the span of 24 hours, dropping 24 millibars, or the levels and the units that are used to measure the pressure and the strength of storms. So if you ever hear that term, bombogenesis, means that the storm is really ramping up and it's going to be a big one. But for now, we don't see any of those big storms on our forecast going into the new year. So that's some good news. So we'll keep it cold, we'll keep it quiet, and hope everybody has a very happy and healthy new year from us here on the Staten Island Morning Show.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Mike.
thank you, Mike.
I was saying to Don while you were
Yeah.
talking, I said, I thought those were the temperatures. I didn't realize that was the
snowfall.
recorded
Yeah.
footage of snow. I mean, that's
I know.
unbelievable.
Yep.
Yeah,
Wow.
I mean, 30 inches of snow. Wow, that's kind of going back to the
It can
blizzard of,
happen.
was it 96 or whatever in this area? We had
Sure.
I mean, that's
Oh, I remember the
Yeah.
blizzard of 96.
gosh, that is a
Absolutely.
lot of snow. That
Nowhere
is a
to,
lot of snow.
nowhere
I
to
mean,
parallel park. I remember that.
yes, this is true. That's right. Street cleaning rules, the whole thing. Wow,
It's
wow.
rough times.
Well, thank you, Mike, and happy holidays, happy New Year, my friend. Always a
Yes.
pleasure to see you.
All the best. Thank you, Mike. Okay, well, listen to this. A new report from the Staten Island Board of Realtors found home sales have dropped 14.1% over the course of 2022. The report attributed the decline to the market as buyers may be waiting for rates to drop before purchasing a home. The decline is a sharp reversal of 2021's trend, which saw sales go up 50% in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. That hesitancy is reflected in the number of new listings, which also declined by 7.6% in 2022. But home prices were the only metric that did go up this year. The median sales price went up by 9% to an average of $665,000.
Yeah, that's interesting how it dropped like that. You know, it's
Yeah.
just maybe, again, you're waiting for those interest rates. You kind of, you're playing a little bit of the game, you know, and
Yeah,
just
you
kind
have
of kind of rolling the dice really to see where those interest rates and mortgage rates are going to go.
Yeah.
But, you know, since it was so prevalent going up during the pandemic, I think people are
Mhm.
just looking to get out of apartment buildings and so forth. And
Exactly.
they're just looking to get their own space is, I think, really what it came down to.
No question. And people really are, watching the trends. And that's why we like to share those trends with you. They
Mhm.
watch the trends and they say, maybe I'll just wait a little bit longer.
Right.
And so that's what we're seeing. A lot of my realtor friends are telling me that
Mhm.
that's what's going on right now.
All right. So earlier we brought you the story of Jar of Hope, a charity run by Staten Island native Jim Raffone. He was inspired by his son's battle with a rare form of muscular dystrophy. Let's take a look. Jim, good morning.
Hi, Jim.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me.
So, Jim, your journey with Jar of Hope is very personal and starts with your son. Can you tell us about him and how you came to start the nonprofit?
Sure. Thank you. So back in September of 2013, my son, James Anthony Raffone, who is the inspiration behind Jar of Hope, was diagnosed with a terminal muscle wasting disease known as Duchenne muscular dystrophy. Duchenne, unfortunately, is 100% fatal. It does not have a cure. It's been around for about 200 years now, and not one single child has ever survived. But Jar of Hope is here with the help of all its supporters to finally put an end to that and try and save the first child.
Wow. And what you're doing is truly incredible. Can you tell us a little bit about it? Because we want to really understand what Jar of Hope is. And I know that you did something just absolutely extraordinary and actually climbed Mount Everest for your son. So tell us a little bit about this extraordinary situation.
Well, it was 9 years ago when this journey started, fighting Duchenne muscular dystrophy. My goal was to try and get everybody in the health and fitness industry behind this muscle wasting disease to try and fight it and bring an end to it. Unfortunately, a friend of mine had passed away Christmas a year ago, and he was a huge supporter. His name was Richard Delano, and he was a huge supporter of ours. And that left a void, not only in our personal lives, but also in raising funds to try and find a cure for this disease. And I couldn't think of a bigger or better way to fill that void. And within 45 days, Jar of Hope, myself, and 3 other dads, we planned a trip going to Nepal and climbing to Mount Everest Base Camp.
Wow. Wow.
Wow, that's unbelievable. Mount Everest. Wow. I mean, that is literally the pinnacle. That's the top. It doesn't get any higher than that. Wow.
That's it.
So what has the process of growing Jar of Hope into what it is now been like?
It has not been easy. Unfortunately, there's been a lot of obstacles in the way of trying to fund research because there's not many children. There's less than 17,000 children in the U.S. who have this disease. Trying to fund research is tough because children are diagnosed by the age of 4. They lose ambulation by the age of 9. So trying to get children together who are still walking and what parents are willing to put them in a clinical trial is very tough. And then on top of it, if you can put a clinical trial together, they say 86% of all the clinical trials fail within the first year only because they don't have enough funding. So for us, we're about to put a clinical trial together at the University of Florida. The first ever, it's a novel approach to fighting Duchenne muscular dystrophy, but we need $1.7 million to do this clinical trial. And that's what brought us to Mount Everest to climb there. And myself and the other 3 dads, we raised just about $200,000 to do that.
Wow.
So it was amazing, an amazing journey.
That's incredible. I mean, it's so touching too, right? To know that so many people come together to do what they have to help. And I think that's just incredible. And so the money that you're raising from Jar of Hope, so you're using that money obviously to help with the clinical research you said. How else is it used to help?
Well, fortunately, unfortunately, things we don't talk about because in the community, children pass away at a young age, is we've helped families lay their children to rest. We've bought medical equipment for families as well. We've helped purchase wheelchair accessible vans for family, help pay some people's mortgages, whatever we can do to help families. That's our goal, to get through this really humiliating disease. And it's really like torture for families just to watch your child break down and fall apart. I can speak about that firsthand, though my son James, we call him Jamesy, is doing rather well for a child with Duchenne. It's still heart-wrenching to see your child go from a little boy that runs around to now someone who's basically, wheelchair bound. It's very difficult to process.
Well, God bless you and your family.
Exactly. Jim, just amazing work that Jar of Hope is doing. How can people learn more about the organization, and especially how can they donate? How can they help out?
Please, if anybody can go to jarofhope.org and make a donation, we would really appreciate it. We need a little over $1.5 million to get this clinical trial going, but hopefully soon enough we can do this and help 12 children around the world.
Oh, I hope we can.
Yeah. Hopefully we can provide some hope and help, and certainly, get you to that goal.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you so much, Jim Raffone. And please, send our love and our prayers to your son as well, to Jamesy. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, and happy holidays to everybody.
Same to you.
Thank you. You too.
Santa Claus brought presents to the Seton Foundation's Mother Francisca Elementary School, and he did it with a little help from the NYPD. Highway District 5 officers helped bring Christmas joy to the kids as part of the school's 10th annual Santa Day. The officers helped load gifts into a police van and also helped them out to help the kids, right? The police also helped Santa get there on time, listen to this, with a 12 motorcycle escort through the streets of Staten Island. The Seton Foundation works to serve the educational needs of students with special needs. Sweet story.
Yes, love that story. It's also the motorcycle escort, right, for Santa. Where I live, they had the fire department bringing Santa around.
Oh, I love that too.
In the last couple of weeks, so it's a lot of fun.
Special for those kids.
So, Nikki, what do you think are New York's favorite Christmas cookies?
Ooh, I don't know. I'm going to have to think about this one.
Okay, a new map from Google says it's Italian Christmas cookies.
Of course it is.
The map looked at search trends from all 50 states to determine each one's favorite Italian cookies were a popular choice across the Northeast, as they were the favorite in New Jersey, Maryland, Delaware, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Maine, which is basically almost all except for Massachusetts. The map was pretty regional, with the Midwest preferring peanut butter blossoms and the South favoring gingerbread cookies. I wonder why peanut butter blossoms are so popular in this central part of the country. I'm not sure, but again, that's pretty, I think it's kind of obvious with the Christmas cookies, shocked. Right? Yeah.
I didn't want to sound biased. I mean, my last name is Stanzione. I didn't want to sound biased saying Italian cookies, but we all know when you're in Staten Island, there's nothing like Italian food.
And there's some great places in Staten Island to get Italian cookies, some of the best in the world.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to deny you on that.
I lived in the Midwest. I didn't realize peanut butter was a big deal there. I didn't know. I love peanut butter, but my heart belongs
to the Italian cookies,
to the Italians in the New York area.
That's right.
Thank you all so much for watching. We hope you have an amazing holiday season. I'm Nikki Stanzione.
And I'm Don Smith. We'll see you back here next time. Happy holidays. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.